Let's talk about the streets right outside your door. Have you ever really stopped to look at them and ask, who are these actually for? Are they for people or are they for cars? Today, we're going to dig into why our streets so often feel like they're failing us, and more importantly, how we can start to fix them. This wasn't just some academic thought experiment. It was a cry of frustration from a professor in New Zealand, Robin Kearns, after a horrible incident where 3 kids were hit by a car just walking to school. And what's so telling is that the conversation that followed wasn't about blaming the parents or the driver. No, it immediately jumped to a much bigger systemic problem. The fact that our cities are built for cars, first and foremost. And this design choice is fueling all sorts of crises, from obesity to our collective mental health. And this isn't a small problem. The cost of this design philosophy on a global scale is just staggering. Every single day, nearly 3,300 people die on the world's roads. Every day. So let's get into it. Our streets haven't become dangerous by accident. In a lot of ways, they are dangerous by design, and that's creating huge challenges for our health, for our safety, and for our environment. For decades, we've planned our communities with one main goal: moving cars as quickly as possible. And that one focus has created this whole tangled web of problems. We see it in rising obesity because we don't walk anywhere. We see it in the heartbreaking fact that a car crash is the #1 thing that kills young people. And we feel it in the social isolation that's growing in our neighborhoods. So what's the one thing, the single biggest factor that makes our streets so dangerous? Well, it all boils down to one simple word: speed. So why? What is it about speed that's so incredibly deadly? The answer, you might be surprised to hear, is actually just some really simple physics. But the consequences of that physics are absolutely dramatic. Okay, get this. It's all about kinetic energy. A car going 60 kilometers an hour has 4 times the destructive energy of the exact same car going 30. 4 times! That's not a small difference. It's literally like being hit by 4 cars instead of just one. All that energy gets transferred directly into whatever it hits. In this chart, wow, it shows you exactly what that means for a human body. At 30 kilometers per hour, a person has about a 10% chance of dying if they're hit. Now bump that speed up to 50, and that risk skyrockets to 80%. Just think about that. A small increase in speed creates a massive, massive leap in the risk of death. And it's not just about the force of the crash either. Speed physically changes what a driver can see. As you go faster, you develop this dangerous tunnel vision. Things on the side of the road, a person about to step off the curb, a child chasing a ball, they just vanish from your peripheral awareness. Okay, so this all sounds pretty bleak, right? But here's the good news. This is not some impossible problem to solve. We actually have a whole toolkit full of proven, effective design ideas to slow traffic down and make our streets way safer and more livable for everybody. So what's the big idea here? It's something called traffic calming. And it's not about just putting up more signs that, let's be honest, people often ignore. It's about using the physical design of the street to naturally and intuitively make drivers slow down. Take something as simple as a raised crosswalk. It's brilliant, right? It's basically a speed bump, but it's placed exactly where people are walking. It forces cars to slow down where it matters most, and it makes the people crossing much more visible to drivers. Or how about these? They're called chicanes. It's just a fancy word for putting gentle curves into what was a straight road. It completely breaks up those long, straight stretches that just tempt drivers to floor it. You're forced to pay more attention and, well, slow down. And some cities are thinking even bigger. You've got to look at Barcelona and their famous superblocks. They take a whole chunk of the city grid, like 9 blocks at a time, and basically turn the inner streets into these amazing, quiet, green parks for people by restricting all the through traffic. And this isn't just some high-minded theory for urban planners. It's so fundamental that even players of city-building video games like City Skylines figure it out pretty quickly. What's one of the best ways to fix your traffic jams in the game? Yup. Add more bike lanes. It just works. Okay, so it works in a virtual city, but what about the real world? Does this stuff actually work where it counts? Well, for that, let's head over to Bologna, Italy. In 2024, they did something really bold. They made the speed limit 30 kilometers per hour across the entire city. And the results? They weren't just good, they were astounding. In the very first year of their Città 30 policy, the number of people killed in traffic accidents dropped by 50%, half, in just 1 year. But you see, this is about so much more than just accident statistics. This represents a fundamental shift in how we think about what our streets are for in the first place. When you start designing streets for people instead of just for cars, you create what sociologists call third places. You have home, that's one place. You have work, that's the second. But a third place is that informal public space, the lively street, the plaza, the park, where community actually happens. It's where you connect with your neighbors. All of this leads to what some people call a gentle city. And look at these words: playful, creative, hopeful. These aren't just nice-sounding ideas. They are the real, measurable results you get when you design cities better. You create a place that's literally healthier, quieter, and more connected for everyone who lives there. So at the end of the day, reimagining our streets isn't just about traffic engineering. It is one of the single most powerful tools we have to build happier, healthier, and more equitable communities. It all comes down to this one big question. What if our streets were designed not just for moving through, but for living in?